The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all. All right, we are back on that long road to ruin. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, I am joined by my brother from another mother, Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey, how do you do? Are you here to have a gay old time?
Ho, ho, ho. Yabba dabba doo. I can guarantee you this is exactly what happens when you piss everybody else off in the chat. You are sent to exile for about 1 year and you're brought back for the Flintstones.
You motherfucker.
Let that resonate in your head, listeners.
That is not what happened. That is not what happened. So I'll tell you, the chat where Evan and I were trying to figure out what our next show was going to be produced 87 other shows. Not any of them were the ones Evan and I intended. I ended up doing a triple feature with Evan of Jennifer Garner movies. I ended up doing like Schools in Trouble movies with Pat and Josie and the Pussycats. And this was the one. And this was the one that Chris Bailey jumped on. He was just like, did someone say nostalgia? And yeah. Because what had happened was Evan and I were trying to figure out what comic book adaptations to do, and somehow or other we landed on the Flintstones at one point. And Chris Bailey then shoved when Pat had shoved everyone out of into the pool. They had gotten out. They were starting to drip dry, and then in comes Chris Bailey on his dog sled in maple syrup and just knocks everybody back into the pool again. And he was like, "I am here to do the Flintstones," and we planned it for January. And then what happened, Chris? Did your wife say you weren't allowed to podcast?
This is the longest ever road to ruin that's ever existed. I have tried to dodge this podcast 500 times. I'm kidding. I am kidding. You talk about the Lord not saying Chris Bailey. I'm just waiting to get hit by a bolt of lightning and just get killed right here on the podcast. Who knows? Or a boulder in this effect. Who knows?
You are approaching Jason Teasy levels of denial about your involvement in this podcast. I just want you to know that.
I love it. But hey, listen, boy, do we got two pile of rocks here to talk about this afternoon. This is great.
Yeah, this is pretty rock stupid.
So I want to preface this. I want to start this out. So I am actually a big Flintstone fan. I grew up on the Flintstones. It used to air at 6:00 every evening on my local television network. So I'm very, very, very familiar with the cartoon. I watched Flintstone Kids back in the 80s. Couldn't stand that crap. And
that was the one where Bam Bam and Pebbles were teenagers, right?
Well, everybody was kids. Like Fred, Barney.
Oh, that one.
Oh, yeah.
There were a couple of different iterations of the Flintstones, just like there was everything else.
Then they had the movies. They had Flintstones and the Jetsons, which was mind-blowing at the time. I mean, it was,
I remember those. Yep.
Next level. So when the Flintstones actually debuted in theaters, I recall this like it was yesterday. I mean, they had the toys, they had everything. Everything that Chris Bailey says that you should have to make a successful movie franchise, it was all there. This movie made a stack of money and was garbage.
So I also you and I are about the same age. I also grew up with the Flintstones. I watched a lot of it, but I have to talk about this for just a second. We don't spend too long on it, but
yeah,
you and I grew up in the age of terrestrial television. If you watch something, it was because there wasn't much else to watch. It's not like you could get on your tablet and just draw up any old thing that's out in the ether and watch it. If you watched the Flintstones and watched a fair amount of it, it was because that's what was playing on your television, on your cable.
I had
network.
two channels, Mark. I watched it on NTV, Newfoundland Television Network.
You hear it with fish. That's how that goes, right? In Newfoundland.
It was this mixed with it was either the news or Three's Company. And that's what you got.
That's all they have in Canada, huh? What terrible imports from America. I would watch this on like Cartoon Network, or I would watch, like for a while it was just playing on like regular terrestrial network television.
Yeah. This was prime time. This was prime time. This is born of the 60s and still going. Like this tells you about the legacy of this show. Do you know that the longest running cartoon for years, until of course the almighty Simpsons came and put the kibosh on it? So
it was based off the Honeymooners, wasn't it?
Oh, blatantly ripped off the Honeymooners. I mean, especially when we're talking a little bit later on about Viva Rock Vegas, and you even get the hominas of the Jackie Gleason character in the Honeymooners. So I mean,
quite obvious what it was, especially
it's the Honeymooners in prehistoric times. This is exactly what this is.
So it was a cartoon. So I don't even need to read the wiki for this, but it was a cartoon sitcom put up by Hanna-Barbera, and it was about kind of an oafish dad, his hot wife. Where have I heard that before? Their baby, and then their dopey neighbors, who's the best friend. And the setups for most of the Flintstones was a lot of like caveman puns. The running gags in the show were all of the appliances, because it was a modern Stone Age family, which let me just say as an aside, I put this on for my son to watch. We watched it as a family today before I prepped for the show. And he goes, "Did you hear?" Every time he starts with "Do you hear?" I just want to flush my head down the toilet. He's like, "Did you hear the theory that the Flintstones are actually from the future after the nuclear war, and man is crawling out of the cave again? That's why they're the modern Stone Age family." And I wanted to eat a gun. I was like, "Stop with the stupid conspiracy theories and headcanon. They're just just a stupid concept." And so, and some of the stuff works, like the Birds as record players or whatever, in rock puns, and everything is rock in it, or stone. Like, as a kid, it was hard to not like the Flintstones, because some of it, like I said, was really funny, and it was a very simple concept. And something that I'm going to talk about when we talk about the movie is, despite Fred's oafishness, despite Fred's obtuseness, he was still a likable character.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You rooted for him to win.
Yeah, so he had the hot trophy wife. So I mean, Wilma came from money. Yeah. So Fred was the the guy who worked at the rock quarry. He's the blue collar guy, and he lands Wilma Flintstone. And I mean, she is considered the prize back in the day. So Fred is doing quite well for himself. She's stepping down, and her mother is saying nay to Freddie Flintstone. So
you also got to remember the time in which this comes out. This is coming out of like the boomer generation. It's hard. I think it's hard now to look at the Flintstones because we have such a different concept of gender norms and relationship norms. But back when the Flintstones came out, like, Fred's not a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, he went to work. He got a labor job, taking care of his family. His hot wife is a stay-at-home mom, and they're just making it. And you're like, yeah, this is this is the American dream. The Flintstones is the American dream. You know, he goes bowling, he goes to his lodge, you know, but he's right there to take care of his family. And I think it's like nigh on how many years later in the year of our Lord 2024, and you look at this, and then you even look at, you know, the movie came out in 1994, which we'll start talking about in a minute. Yep. You look at like how he's presented in the movie, and you're like, I don't think people remember that he's the good guy. He's right. Somebody that men should like identify with and want to win because they see themselves in Fred. Like, I think the impression now is almost like, oh, this is somebody you don't want to avoid being. And it's like, yeah, you want to be the one who avoids hard work and taking care of his family and putting them first. And he's he would Fred Flintstone would not make it in 2024. He would be the stay at home dad while Wilma has the executive job at the the office. Wilma has an OnlyFans.
And doing quite well with those pearls.
I mean, who doesn't want to knock them pearls back and forth? You know what I'm saying?
Wait a minute here. Holy cow, this is the Flintstones. This is a family show, Mark Radulich. Or should I call you Mark Rockelich?
You can call me anything you like, baby. Let me tell you, and we'll jump right into the movie after this. Can I tell you? So Halle Berry's in this movie, hot ass, Oscar-winning Halle Berry, and every time, especially like in the beginning of the movie, every time she's cued into a scene, they play the hubba hubba music. Well, you know, like that NWO fucking porn music.
I know.
Which my daughter keyed in every time and is like very like anti-sex on screen. So every time they showed Halle Berry, she just like, whoa, one of those. She was like, oh my God, what is this again? And then there's a bit where I think like Kyle MacLachlan grabs her and kisses her, and my son's like, now I want to see Flintstones porn. He's 10. Now I want to see Flintstones porn. And I was just like, Google it. It's there. There's shit tons of
it. I can imagine. I will not soil my daughter's Google Chromebook with that.
You can imagine. Sure you can. Yeah, I haven't.
So speaking of Halle Berry, getting back on track here, my God. She was playing a character named Sharon Stone. Stone as in do you want to know a fun Flintstones fact, Mark Radulich?
I do, and then we'll get into the movie.
Do you know who was almost about to play the character of Sharon Stone before Halle Berry?
Please tell me it was actually Sharon Stone.
It was Sharon Stone.
That's amazing.
And for whatever reason, she turned down the role. I can't imagine why. And in came Halle Berry as Sharon Stone. So there you go.
That's okay, because Halle Berry and Sharon Stone will work together on Catwoman.
Oh, that's another story for another day, right there.
Sean and
that's its own long road to ruin, and it's only one movie.
Sean and I actually did I don't know if you've heard it, but Sean and I actually did an on trial of that.
100%. I've already listened to it.
It's one of my favorite episodes I've ever recorded. All right. So the Flintstones in 1994. I was a senior in high school or a freshman in college, depending on when this was. Family comedy film directed by Brian Levant. If you don't know who Brian Levant is, he directed Problem Child 2, Beethoven.
Problem Child 2. That, my friend, is a powerhouse movie right there. John Ritter.
Yes, he is the monster that directed Jingle All the Way. He also directed the Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas, Snow Dogs, Are We There Yet? The Spy Next Door, and Max 2, White House Hero.
Did you say that he did Jingle All the Way?
I fucking did another on trial, by the way.
I love Jingle. So hold on one moment.
Oh my God.
It's turbo time, baby.
Of fucking course you do. Do you it's the real deal, baby. Do you have any adult stuff in your house? Just at all? It's just all toys.
I don't want to talk about it.
Of course you don't. Anywho, and it was written by Tom S. Parker, Jim Jennewein, and Stephen D'Souza, based on the 1960 to 66 animated television series of the same name by Hanna-Barbera. It stars John Goodman as Fred Flintstone, Rick Moranis as Barney Rubble, Elizabeth Perkins as Wilma Flintstone, and Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell when she was thin, by the way, or thinner.
Well, do you know
Betty
that
Rubble.
they were still calling her large? So if you look at the movie reviews at the time, and I mean, even the Siskel and Eberts, they're calling her a larger actress. And you know what? At the time, I remember that being a thing, a source of controversy, because she was, because Betty Rubble is considered, a pipe cleaner, like super rail thin.
They both were. They were both drawn that way. They were both drawn, like you can't find a real woman who looks, like this.
Well, they found her in Viva Rock Vegas. They actually did find her eventually, but it did not happen here. But this was Rosie O'Donnell at her slimmest. I mean, the girl didn't look bad here at the time. I'm gonna give her credit. This was not bad casting.
What was the BDSM movie that Rosie O'Donnell did? It was like East of Eden or some shit with Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, it was East of Eden.
I think she was in fairly decent shape. By the way, she has like the best line in that movie. He was like, "What can I do? Like, what can I do to serve your mistress?" She's like, "How about you paint my house?" Like, it's a very Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah, it's labor work. It's a very Rosie O'Donnell thing to say. It's a very emasculating line. But can I tell you how I've said shit like that? Like, what can I do to make you happy? I don't know. Clean my bathroom.
That's funny.
Anyway, true story, by the way. And Kyle MacLachlan as Cliff Vandercave, because of course he is.
The original Moadib, the original Dune Master.
Yes. As the villainous ex-president of Fred's company, Halle Berry as Sharon Stone, his seductive secretary, and Elizabeth Taylor in her final film appearance as Pearl Slaghoople. And the B-52s were in this. The B-52s.
They were really good in this.
Yeah, they were.
They were really good. Is it me, or does it seem like the B-52s play the same song with different words? Yeah, I feel that it's a thing.
That hurts me deep.
I love it all. I'm a Love Shack baby all the way, but I mean, it all sounds like one song. Do you take them all on down to the Love Shack baby? Love Shack baby. That's good. Anyway.
Kissing and a hugging.
Speaking of gay old time.
I'm about to start doing a fucking karaoke number.
Oh, man.
Kissing and a hugging. That's all I'm going to do now. I'm going to spend the next 40 minutes just dancing to the B-52s. Like, well, that was our conversation. We lost Mark. That's what happens when I podcast on a Friday night. Anyway, so the whole fucking plot of this thing is basically Fred loaned money to Barney for them to adopt Bam Bam, and so the first part of the film just deals with that alone. And then to pay him back, they switch answers in an app. He switches the answer, Barney does, of an aptitude test, which makes Fred seem like the smartest person at Slate Company. Yeah.
Yep.
And so he gets promoted to an executive, and as it turns out, this is all a plot to embezzle funds from the company, and then they're able to pin it on Fred.
Yeah.
So the middle portion of the film is Fred being manipulated and taking the money and spending it, and Barney falls on hard times. He starts shooting heroin. No. And him and sorry, I'm thinking of The Wire again. Him and Betty have to move in with Fred and Wilma, and so you see them spending money and them like doing work around the house, and their friendship is drifting apart. And eventually, the jig is up, and they find out that what Kyle MacLachlan did, and so now they got to stop him from escaping with all the money, and they do, and then they accidentally create concrete, and so Barney gets his job back. Fred goes back to working in the rock quarry. Everyone's friends again. And that's the whole movie. So I'll go to you first, Chris, because you have been texting me all day. And when you weren't sending me naked pictures, you were saying that...
that never happened. That never happened, for the record. Okay, carry on.
Chris standing with like a rock in front of him. It was like, I hate the Flintstones.
It did not happen.
I didn't think it was that bad. Like, it's goofy as shit, and there's something to talk about, I think, positively about the set design and the costuming. Though I do have one weird comment about the costuming. I'll get to it when it's my turn to speak. The performances are broad and everything, and the plot's kind of thin. But you really struggled with this movie, which I was surprised by, because you're always like, everything of my youth is awesome. So when you're like,
Right.
this movie sucks, I'm curious as to like why you think so.
So I'm using it as comparison because it used to be the opposite. So my idea of the Flintstones movies, Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas, it was the total opposite in my mind. I always remembered thinking that Viva Rock Vegas was your $5 Walmart bin classic, and the Flintstones was the big show. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was the total opposite for me. So anyway, let's start with the Flintstones. So the Flintstones, the special effects are done by ILM.
Right.
So you get to see a lot of different special effects. They really went out of their way to capture bedrock, okay? Like the sets. But the problem was, and I'll get to Viva Rock Vegas after, is that it looked like it was in a backlot studio. Like this thing looked like a set to me. A lot of the special effects were really well done. They had a lot of great puppeteering. I mean, masterful puppeteering that you haven't seen. You know, I mean, back in the Muppet Show days and all that type of stuff. It's really good. It's really good. If you're trying to take that cartoon and put it on the screen, it's really good. I don't know where it lost me. It felt like that John Goodman and Rick Moranis were just playing. It didn't feel authentic, I guess, to me. So it felt like these guys were playing.
I'm going to help you. I read a review that said it feels like they're doing an SNL skit.
It's exactly what it is. It didn't feel like they were authentically Fred and Barney, even though they were doing a bang up job. I mean, John Goodman is, if I had to pick someone out of a crowd back in 1994, it would be John Goodman to play this guy. I mean, absolutely. John Goodman was the guy. Now he got this job. He worked on a movie with Spielberg. I think it was Always.
Okay.
So he's on the set, and Spielberg is like, "Hey, we're going to do this Flintstones movie," and Spielberg's name was attached to it at the time. I don't think it ended up at the end of the day being a Spielberg deal, was it? I can't remember.
He's probably listed as a producer. It was produced by Bruce Cohen, production company Hanna-Barbera, distributed by Universal. I feel like his name is in the title somewhere. Keep going, and I'll just.
So anyway, he hooked him up. And they were going to do Danny DeVito as Barney. Danny DeVito. Can you imagine? Hey there, Fred. You know, as Danny DeVito. I don't know if that would have worked. So I think we got, for the two main actors, I think we did well. What did you think? Rosie O'Donnell played a pretty decent Betty Rubble. And Wilma was sort of just
there.
There. Yeah, she didn't really.
So here's my first blush review of the Flintstones, because I still like it better than Viva Rock Vegas. I fucking hated Viva Rock. I have only saw it back in January when you promised me we were going to do this.
Okay.
But I remember, like, I watched it and I was like, I had a rough time just getting through because, like, it didn't, to me, like, it didn't feel as good as the first one in a lot of ways. And I'll talk about that when we get there. This one, there's a lot good about it that I think makes up for what's bad about it, because what's bad about it is I don't feel like Fred is written sympathetically. I think he's kind of written as like a shitty human being, a shitty character. And I think that's part of the problem. In a 22-minute cartoon, you get just enough Fred doing what Fred does, and he's redeemed fast enough in 22 minutes that you never get to see him be bad for too long. And if you'll remember, much like the actual Honeymooners, you know, where Ralph could be kind of a shit, but you know, Cramden, I'm sorry, it's Ralph Cramden. What the fuck's his name? His buddy, Ed Norton. Yeah.
Norton.
Yeah, right. Hey, Norton.
Norton, my friend.
Norton was always getting over on him, you know, like not like taking advantage of him, but like he was always busting his balls, you know, like Ralph couldn't get away with too much because Norton was always there to kind of give him shit about it, you know, and it was almost like sometimes Norton was so stupid at times that like, and Ralph wasn't a bad guy, and even, you know, for Johnny Lunchpail, he was still with it, and he was almost exhausted by Norton at times. They captured that same magic with Fred and Barney, where, you know, Fred was not totally stupid, and Barney was always busting his balls. Barney was always making fun of him. Yeah. And that was sort of the magic of those two. And again, like, Wilma didn't let Fred get away with shit. Like, she wasn't a nag. She wasn't high on the Adrian scale or anything. But she was definitely, like everybody in the cast kept him grounded. So you never hated Fred too much. You wanted to see him succeed. You know, it was just like everyone's there to kind of get him across the finish line, and you're happy when he does. My problem with this movie is you spend an enormous amount of time with him being just a terrible human being.
Oh, yeah. And not only that. So say, for example, Chris and Mark, we work at the jail. Two of us work at the jail. I get promoted. I become the big guy. I'm the head jail. I don't even know what it's called.
You're the mental health director. Okay.
I'm the mental health. How appropriate is that? I'm the mental health director. So we go to lunch. Yep. All our families are there. We're celebrating. We're toasting. And I go, Mark, you're fired. And you just go, okay. And then you just continue drinking. Well, that's pretty rough there, Fred. And he just continues. You're like, what? Like, would this not be friendship over? Like it was tone deaf when it came to that. I don't think they went as far as they should have. This should have been like a friendship shattering decision here, but Barney just sort of took it. Oh, well,
what's sort of hilarious about that is like my 10-year-old son screaming at the television, tell him why, tell him what's going on. Like this movie, I'm going to pitch meeting it. Like this movie doesn't happen because nobody, or if anyone actually communicates with each other. You know, if at any point Fred actually told Barney what was happening, or Barney told Fred, hey, the only reason why, he eventually does, but that's after everything has happened and he's fed up with him. Like, hey, you only got the promotion because I tried to help you out because you helped me out. So like, it's one of those like frustrating movies where everyone is stupid. And the only reason why there's any action in this movie is because everyone's an idiot and won't talk to each other.
Correct. So both movies, and this has the framework of a Flintstones episode. Like the pieces are there. Right. So, you've got the evil conniving boss. You've got the hot secretary that's in a lot of these episodes. You got the Fred and Barney dynamic. They're on their little adventure and they, eventually overcome the bad guy at the end. All the basics are there. Dino looks really good too. Hey, listen. Mm-hmm. I think they did a great job with the special effects. The cars look authentic. The birds look authentic. The sets, like all the pieces of the puzzle are there to make a great Flintstones movie, and it doesn't work for me. I don't know what it is.
My kid's reaction was basically to all the animals was, what kind of Lovecraftian monsters are in this movie? What the
fuck? There's a whole lot. And if you didn't grow up with it, they used all the animals for everything. Right. So, if it's a, you got a record player, you got a bird's beak pressed down.
The elephant shower because it's spraying water from its trunk.
You got a garbage disposal that, it's just a monster underneath the sink that eats stuff. Like
my son. So the first scene with the stupid garbage disposal is like Fred reaching down its throat, and my son goes, "That's kinky. You should put that on his Fred Flintstone OnlyFans page." I'm like, "Oh my
God!" Jonas talking about OnlyFans. What have you done to that child?
When they start because he's watched a fight or two, and these people are like sponsored by OnlyFans now. You should watch Modern Combat Sports. It's ridiculous.
Oh, God.
From the sport that brought you Condom Depot, here's OnlyFans. But yeah, like, so to make your point, yes, it looks like it's on a backlot. It doesn't look like, I think Barbie did a slightly better job of really transporting you to another world, but I think they were going for, and it's a choice, and maybe it wasn't the best choice, but it's a choice that they made, and it's a choice that I think that they stayed true to, and I give them credit for it. They were trying to make this look cartoony. They know it's a cartoon, and they wanted to keep that cartoon aesthetic. So the color paletting on in the movie has that matted kind of printed page feel to it. I mean, for me, it looked like the cartoon had come to life, which is what they were going for.
Which is, and me of all people to complain that a cartoon adaptation was too cartoon adapted to a screen doesn't make any sense. It's like myself kicking myself in the balls. It's like the absolute reverse Chris Bailey argument of everything that I've ever stood for in my entire life.
Yeah,
like they literally poured the cartoon onto the screen, and I was like Sookie baby. I didn't like it.
I was gonna say, like, the next thing you're gonna tell me is that you don't like the Acolyte or some shit. Chris is a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there.
It's like I'm never coming back on this show. Anyway, so I liked all that stuff. I want to talk about the costuming for just 1 second because I think the costuming looks great.
I did too.
Unfortunately, this gets like a weird complaint. So everybody in the cartoon is not drawn like an actual human being, which is fine. I'm not saying they should. It's not like Yogi Bear looks like an actual bear. You know what I mean? Yeah, like they're not anatomically correct. Who cares? The problem is, so like they drew them not thinking that someday we're gonna need to have people play these roles and wear these outfits. They just drew them. They drew them like Sunday funnies. So yes. Fred is a barrel with feet. Right. And,
correct.
And Wilma, and so is Barney. He's just a shorter barrel. So when they wear the animal skins, it makes sense, and you're just essentially draping an animal skin over a barrel.
Yep.
Now try that with a human being who has like a waist and proportions, and you throw an animal skin on them, and it's kind of form fitting, and it did not look right, but it didn't look right because this was never meant to be a look for humans. The only other way they could have made this look is if they had maybe cut it at just below the belly, and then John Goodman's dick is hanging out, and who wants that? Why are you wearing a mini skirt?
We don't need to see John Goodman's dick at any point. There's no need. There is no need.
Hey, you can put that back in Roseanne where it belongs.
No.
So yeah, so like I look at like even like Kyle MacLachlan, some of the other characters who all have to wear this basically long nightgown. It doesn't look right, but the only other way to do it would be to not do it or put them in pants. Like there was no way to do this right.
And especially like Fred gets almost there. I know exactly what you mean. Like he gets there, it fits him really strange, his animal skin, but Barney looked ridiculous. Barney just looked like you just took a kid off a street and threw an animal skin on him. Like
he looks like
Barney is a compact character, and you have Rick Moranis playing, so he just looks like a skinny guy in animal skin. It didn't look like Barney. Goodman looked like Fred, but
he looks like if your 10-year-old son put on your shirt. It's it goes down to your kneecaps. Yeah. Your champion sweatshirt goes down to your kneecaps. So it's a little big on you there, pal.
So do you think that Danny DeVito could have possibly played Barney better than Rick Moranis?
No, because especially in 1994, Danny DeVito to me will always be what's his nuts from Taxi. You know, Danny DeVito, like he has earnest, he can be sympathetic, but to me he'll always be the kind of raspy, shitty, like in your face kind of a character. And Barney, the way to get over being Barney is you have to have earnest. I think Rick Moranis does the best job he can with the material he's given. I think overall Elizabeth Perkins is the only one where she has the look, but they don't give her much. And she's trying the best she fucking can with what they give her.
So here's what I'll tell you. I think that this one compared to Viva Rock Vegas, I think that they capture the voices properly. I think Rick Moranis can do the "Hey there, Fred," and I think Rosie O'Donnell got the role of Betty Rubble because she could do the little laugh, and she could do she could do the entire Betty Rubble thing. Wilma sounded like Wilma. She doesn't in Viva Rock Vegas. And listen, John Goodman does a more than passable Fred. So if you're trying to match up the look and the voice, I think that they did a pretty decent job for what you could do with your constraints.
The main cast is really good.
Yeah,
they are. The main cast, Kyle MacLachlan is serviceable in his role. The only one who gives really weird line readings and is not great in this is Oscar Award winner Halle Berry. And the more I watch movies of hers, the more I'm just like, you are a very inconsistent actress. Where
she is. But now is she playing to the material? Like, this is not exactly Shakespeare.
Dude, she gives a fucking line reading at the end that made the entire room that was watching it cringe.
This woman, like the end scene where she was sort of like giving him the blow off.
Yeah, she has that like Jessica Rabbit line of like, I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way. Like with something along those lines.
Yeah, that's right.
The way she delivered it, I actually said out loud, I'm like, there's no fucking way that was the best take. But like they shot that once and were like, we're running over budget, let's go.
Like, I think they just wanted to scrap all her scenes and go get the real Sharon Stone.
Like, what kind of rating will we get if we just shoot her topless? Because that's about all she's going to add to this movie.
That's funny, actually.
And like I said, like I've seen her act. Like I've seen her in good stuff. She's not a terrible actress. I just don't know what the fuck they were doing here.
This overall, one was definitely the dumbest Halle Berry I've ever seen.
Yeah. I think overall, like I said, the biggest problem I have with the Flintstones, then we'll move on to Viva Rock Vegas, is if you're ready. It's a 22-minute cartoon that was stretched to 90 minutes, and you know, something that is really solid and stable and secure, when you stretch it that far out, you start to create or you start to see the flaws in it. There was
absolutely.
This was, I don't know if there's any way to do a full feature-length Flintstones movie, but this attempt was not it.
I think there's a lot of pieces there. I think you're exactly right on every word there. I think this looks like a Flintstones movie.
Oh,
this
absolutely.
should feel like a Flintstones movie. It just is just a SNL skit trying to be a Flintstones movie. That's what this is.
Yeah. All right.
My opinion.
Just some demographic stuff here. It shot for a budget of $46 million. It was a huge hit.
350 million, wasn't it? Or 340 something?
341.6.
That's crazy. That would be considered a blockbuster smash, would it not?
Yeah, no, like this was a giant success. Fuck the critics. And they should have stopped with one. Like, this is a great example of you're lucky you made that much money. So quit pushing your luck. On review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 23%, which I think it's a little low. I think there's critics being a little too hard on the Viva.
It's not that bad.
The website's consensus reads: the Flintstones waste beloved source material and imaginative production design on a tepid script that plunks Bedrock's favorite family into a cynical story awash with lame puns. Hey now. The puns were always lame in the Flintstones. Get the fuck out of here.
Listen, it was exactly the same as the cartoon. So they get a pass on that.
Siskel and Ebert gave the film 2 thumbs down.
Come on, Roger Ebert.
Ebert gave it 2.5 stars out of 4 in his newspaper review, and Siskel gave it 1.5 out of 4 in his newspaper. They both mentioned that its main storyline were storylines for adult films and ones that children would not be able to understand. My kids handled it. Well, granted, my kid makes OnlyFans jokes, but my kids handled it just fine. I don't really.
Yeah, I don't think this was exactly. This was not Dune 2. You're not going to be struggling to figure out who the Moadib is and why the sandworms are.
Yeah, this is not exactly, the Wolf of Wall Street here.
No. This is pretty easy. I mean, literally, it's just there's no story here really. It's the Flintstones being the Flintstones. That's literally it.
They say what he's doing. It's like we're embezzling money and we're getting him to sign off on it so that so that we can frame him. Like, again. When I think about like family entertainment, there's stuff that works there's stuff that works for the adults and they can key into and go, oh, I see what you're doing there. But there's other stuff happening that's, bright colors and jingly keys and, broad humor that kids can follow. Like, I can't imagine they never stay with the business stuff too long to where I think kids would get bored.
Oh, no. I don't think they played enough into the adult theme because really the target audience for this were us, the kids who grew up who saw the Flintstones in their prime and have actually seen it. So, you got to, if you're playing the nostalgia card, play the nostalgia card properly with an ear to adulthood as well.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, I agree with what you're saying, Chris Bailey. Fred should have banged Halle Berry on the desk. Like, just
right over the desk. Clear the desk. Clear the desk. Move the bird. Move the bird, the record player, the garbage disposal. Move it all off, Fred. Sharon Stone is getting
Fred just bangs the crap out of her. The desk shatters. They pan to the atom and they go like, "It's a living."
Tag me in, Fred, my buddy. Tag me in.
Alrighty, Viva Las Vegas.
All right.
Anything else about this before we move on?
No, I think we captured that one. Viva Rock Vegas.
Yeah.
So this is a movie that I remember absolutely disliking. So when back in the day of what was the release date of this?
So here, let me help you out here, and then you can jump back in with what you're saying. The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas is a 2000, the year 2000, baby. American romantic comedy directed by Fred Levant, written by Jim Cash, Harry Elfont, Deborah Kaplan, and Jack Epps Jr. It's the prequel to the 1994 movie based on the cartoon. It was developed and produced without the involvement in Steven Spielberg. By the way, I was reading, I think it's Amblin that had the rights to the Flintstones and they sold it to Universal is what happened.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
It's set before the events of both the series and the first film, showing how Fred and Barney met Wilma and Betty. The title is a play on the Elvis song, yada yada yada. It was made for $83 million and bombed terribly. It made only $60 million.
Yeah, it was the complete reversal of the other one. But the thing is,
no one gave a fuck 6 years later.
Oh boy, like 6 years separation. I mean, if you're gonna strike while the iron's hot, the other one made $340 million on a 40+ budget. I mean, massive hit. But I mean, you got to strike while the iron's hot. Within 2 years, there needed to be a sequel, or this was done. And boy, were we right. 6 years later, and this thing hit the Titanic hit the iceberg, and everybody died in bedrock, or the Titanic hit the boulder. That's what happened. Man,
funny. Everyone dies.
But here's what I'm going to tell you. So I recall not liking this movie, and suddenly, and I paid money, by the way, $3.99 Canadian went to Amazon Prime so I could watch this for you, Mark Radulich, and the people listening this evening. Right.
Thanks,
so
Jason.
Here you go. Yes, thank you. So, but anyway, here I enjoyed it. I cannot believe it. This had all the elements done properly this time with the old cartoon. So it had, once again, it had the same thing. So it had the evil, manipulative figure. So it was, her other boyfriend who, was the favorite of the mother. It had the slutty, office worker figure still in there. So every single Flintstones movie would always have those figures. You had the mother who hates Fred. You've got all the similar components. The only thing is that now they're younger. This is a prequel. We get to see how they met. I kind of like how every single character is done, with the exception of Stephen Baldwin as Barney. He is awful, just awful. The hairdo, he does a pretty good job there speaking like Barney, but I just wanted to throw him off my screen every single time he was there. Just awful.
Yeah, I actually, if you take the Viva Rock Vegas Fred and put him with Rick Moranis, I think it's a better pairing.
Man, and Betty Rubble is pitch perfect. Like what's the actress name who played Betty?
Well, here, I'll help you again. So none of the original cast is back for this. It stars Mark Addy, who I'm not tremendously familiar with, as Fred, Stephen Baldwin as Barney, Kristen Johnson from Third Rock from the Sun, who is 8 feet tall. I don't know how the fuck she got this role, as Wilma. Jane Krakowski, who I fucking loved in I think it's the 30 Rock. Jesus Christ, I can't talk tonight. Jane Krakowski in 30 Rock, because I don't know if you know this or not. I don't know if you knew this or not, Chris Bailey. But her muffin top is all that. All that.
What? Okay. I'm missing the reference here. What is that?
Did you not watch 30 Rock?
I did not.
Oh,
never watched any of it. None of it.
Did your lovely wife ever watch 30 Rock? Because I need you to walk in the room and ask her for muffin. Go ahead.
I don't think anybody's seen 30 Rock in my house. And she's actually in Florida with you guys.
You need to start walking around Canada in the snow with the maple syrup and just start asking people if their muffin top is all that, until somebody says, yes, my muffin top is all that. So is that her joke? She doesn't seem to be someone with a muffin top, because she is pipe cleaner thin. She looked great as Betty Rubble. Like she does a song. Perfect. She does a song in 30 Rock, and that's like her big single. That singing about her muffin top, and that it's all that. And I can't disagree.
She's fantastic. Jane
Krakowski's really, really good in this. I fucking hated. Oh God, what's the actress's name again? I could not stand Kristen Johnson as Wilma. She's awful.
They had two misses. They had two misses as Wilma. At least the first one from the original Flintstones movie could speak the voice. She had the Wilma voice, and she sort of looked like the part. You know what I mean? If you really, really took a step back, there was a visual. This lady was.
There's almost a fetishizing of. There's almost a fetishizing of Wilma, because if you go back and listen to those old cartoons, she's like a young Edith. She's like, Fred,
100%. Yeah,
Fred. You know, okay, so we're both 100, and nobody got that joke except for people our age. Edith Bunker, Edith Bunker from All in the Family. Archie, Archie. Oh, I don't know why she's never going to work.
Do you know the definition of sad? You want to know the definition of sad? It's sad on two levels. So sometimes when I'm off, I'm just mindlessly scrolling YouTube and all this type of stuff, and I see an Archie Bunker scene, and it's the death of Edith. Okay, I don't know if you've ever seen it.
What? No.
On the show, Edith dies. Okay,
he fucking hit her with an iron or something. What happened?
No, she dies. I think it's a heart attack or something. They don't show her on screen. But anyway, Archie's
like in later years or whatever the follow-ups that come to that was, there was no Edith because she was dead.
Yes, she was dead.
Oh shit! I had no idea.
So Archie in the show was a hard ass. He's like this. He's a partial bigot. He says what's on his mind. Hard ass. He treats her like garbage half the time. He never shows affection to her.
Right.
And she dies, and he comes into her bedroom and sees her shoes, and he has this massive meltdown where he's crying like just. And it's so pitch perfectly captured. So I'm sitting on the couch. I'm watching this 5-minute clip on YouTube. I'm bawling like a baby at poor Edith's death. I mean, it is heartbreaking. But just watch that clip. I'm telling you, every time I hear Edith Bunker, I just think of, oh my God, I just can't. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna tear up.
Well, maybe this will make you feel better. My lasting memory of Archie Bunker is when I think Edith needed a blood transfusion, and she got it from an African American guy or something like that.
Yes, so good.
Archie says something about does that make you black now? Or I can't remember what the whole line is.
Oh,
but Edith, I don't remember Edith giving him a tremendous amount of shit. But he said something really stupid about getting a blood transfusion from a black guy, and she was like, "Archie, you're an idiot."
But that's exactly how Wilma was sort of played off. You're right on the money with that. So she wasn't confrontational, but she always sort of set Fred in his place. So when you get sort of the alpha female in the movie, it always seemed it fits here because it was always present. You know what I mean? They didn't shoehorn it in for 2024, for example.
She gave Fred, it was very natural. She gave Fred a run for his money, and in neither one of these movies is that the case. Kristen Stewart, that's probably not the right name. Kristen Johnston, Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Yes.
Kristen Johnston is 100 feet tall. She's the same size. She is the 50-foot fucking woman, and she is trying to play skinny ass demure Edith Bunker. Wilma Flintstone, and it's not good at all. All right, it's not. The plot to this thing, so we can get into it and then talk about the movie. Basically, Fred's trying to figure his shit out and figure out what he's going to do with his life, and Wilma, and so he's from the Fred's from the hard streets of Bedrock. You know what I mean? He's out on the corner with Doughboy, and because he's a boy in the hood. See, they're out there slinging cane. He's just trying to figure shit out, Chris Bailey. And then on the other side of town is this rich hot mama named Wilma Slaghoople, and they got to marry her off to an even richer guy because she has to be Bedrock royalty. And she's just like, no, I want a bad boy. She wants a cool rider. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you, Chris Bailey?
She wants a cool rider. Cool rider.
He's a cool rider.
I'm thinking, you know what? I'm thinking there are some,
it's the most fucking musical episode we've ever done of Long Road to Ruin.
I think we should do, we should cue this up. I think we should do a full-on karaoke Long Road to Ruin one day, where we physically sing our way through it. Chris and Mark the musical. I think we should do it.
I love this idea.
All right, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Cool Rider. I made my daughter watch that. My daughter. I took my daughter out for pho a couple of weeks ago, and to get her haircut, and took her for pho. And I was like, "Hey, this is a fun game. Let's like play bad shit for you and see how well you react to it." She'd already done a great reaction video for me for Reproduction, the girl who doesn't like to watch sex on TV.
Reproduction. It's really good.
It's horrible. So then I played for her Cool Rider, and she I'm fairly certain she was trying to get up and drive my car away. You know, she was done. Anyway. So she wants a bad boy. He wants a nice girl. He chases her, but doesn't feel like he's good enough for her. So somehow or other, they end up in Vegas. I don't remember why, but it's set up. It's set up by the rich boyfriend, and so you know, to basically like build up Fred just so that he can break him down, so that woman will come running to the rich guy. That's like the whole movie.
That's right.
But it doesn't work out. He ends up with Wilma in the end. They get married, and then he goes to work at the rock quarry. And we are, you know, and is she pregnant by the end of it with Pebbles or no? I don't remember.
Yes, she is. She is.
Okay, so that's Viva Rock Vegas. I like the first one better, Chris, and you're gonna tell me I'm wrong, and that's fine. It doesn't really matter which one we think is better. But I was bored by this one, and I think watching Fred bumblefuck through two movies got to me after a while. Like I think if I had just watched. I think if I had watched Viva Rock Vegas like independently of the first Flintstones, like if I had just watched it cold, I might have tolerated it more. But two movies where Fred goes through the same fucking journey really gets to me. Like I hate that.
There's way too many similarities. So
yeah.
So they share a lot of concepts. So you get the same ordeal. So you know, you got Fred battling, you know, Wilma's mother. Like that thing exists in both movies. You know, you got the tension between the girls, and basically it's telling their origin story. So the reason why I think I like this so much is because it gives me background. It feels like a different story. We didn't talk about Gazoo, the great Gazoo, one of the best parts of the Flintstone cartoon.
Hello, Dum Dum.
Yes, hello, Dum Dum. And it's pitch perfect. It's pitch perfect.
I'm gonna start doing that in the chat. Like you fucking nerd.
Oh, you should. You should. Yeah, hello, Dum Dum.
Crying about crying about your fucking comic books and Star Wars and bullshit. And I'm just gonna be like,
shut up.
And I'm gonna be like, hello, Dum Dums.
Well, it works, but I will say it's some of the worst special effects you've ever seen in your entire life. So boy, did they take the Dollarama version of special effects here and just shove it into this movie. I don't know. Any money that they made, they certainly didn't invest it in Viva Rock Vegas. What I will say though,
this comes across like porn parody quality.
Oh God. But I'm gonna tell you, it worked better for me because things felt lived in. They dirtied stuff up. So the earlier Flintstone movie looked like someone just created these sets, built them, and they look new, shiny, flashy. This looks dirty. This looks lived in. This looks
the first one looks like the Flintstones the ride.
Exactly right. So it's very sterile. This one felt like you walked into bedrock. So I think it was more authentic. I felt a better connection with the characters. I was more invested in them. Like the first one felt like they were cosplaying. This one felt like they were actually Fred and Barney, if that makes any sense, despite them not being as good, whatever the case might be. But I enjoyed it. This one had music. This one had, I guess, the origin story, which I didn't see before, and they had a great Gazoo.
It had music. And rock
I don't think it's who's the Mick Jagger character in this who went after Betty Rubble.
Oh,
so there was a character who was like a Mick Jagger. So when they went to Vegas, the act on stage was like a Mick Jagger type of.
Oh, character. Alan Cumming also portrays the great Gazoo as well as Mick Jagger.
He played both.
He did.
Really, I didn't know that. That's pretty funny, actually. Well, he is the MVP of this movie, sir, because he nailed both parts, in my opinion. What do you think of Gazoo? Did you like that?
I like Gazoo. I don't think they made enough use of him. Like Gazoo was always great in the cartoon.
Yes.
Because he was kind of like Q in Star Trek, like that kind of role.
Just this annoying background character who,
and he was like do shit to
pot.
them. Like he kind of was just like, he was kind of like the dad who puts the baby bottle just out of reach for the infant. Like, come on, you got to work for it. And they don't really. But here he feels too much like a Deus Ex Machina or like a genie. We're out of options here. Yeah, it's like we're out of options. Save us, Gazoo. And it's like, all right, dum dums. Like, that's not how.
I know. I think I'm relying more on the visual. I think the visual was good. I think the visual was overall good in this movie, but I can see why people didn't like it. I didn't like it back in the day, but when I compared both of them, and I watched them both back to back, it was a 3-hour Flintstones viewing session, and I was exhausted after the first one, and this one was like, hey, I'm sort of weirdly into this. And do you know that Dino was the only character that looked really good in both? They matched Dino up. It was perfect. And did you see they did the perfect ending? So the first one actually missed the boat on doing the Flintstones intro and outro. This one actually did the perfect outro. It was right from the TV show, right to your screen. No, absolutely perfect.
The first one does the outro where the cat throws him out the window. Yeah, I just watched it.
Or wait, maybe it's the first one. Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm confused.
Yeah, no, I can tell you right now they did the open and the close in the movie because my daughter, when he pulls the bird to say that time's up for the day, my daughter freaked the fuck out. She's like, "What is that?" Like she was having a hard time with
it. What did your daughter think of the? I don't know. So a lot of it is based on, if they have not seen the cartoon, they're missing like all the context to any of the fun stuff. So watching it with fresh eyes, what is that like? I wonder how did they react to it? Did they like it at all, or just thought it was garbage?
Jonas said that he liked the first one. They haven't seen Viva Rock Vegas because I'm a good parent. But
well played.
But she made it about halfway through, and then we stopped for dinner, and then she didn't come back. But Jonas watched the whole thing, and he was like, it was solid. Like that's the thing, and to sort of end our discussion of both movies because we're getting on an hour here. Like I said, I think first of all, a couple things. One, Gazoo didn't need an origin story. These characters don't need an origin story. I think trying to focus on what's the magic of the cartoon and recreate that as a film. Again, I'm not convinced the Flintstones needs a full-length film. Like, I think if you sat down, you watch enough Flintstone, you kind of think like, well, what is an average thing that they kind of get into, and how can we amp that up a bit so that we can make a feature film out of it? Because that's sort of that's the alchemy of creating one of these. Like, I think a good one would be the Addams Family,
right?
Which at some point I should have you back on, and we should do the Addams, the two. I think it's the two Addams Family movies.
Yeah, I love those movies. Those were both good, actually.
Yeah, but I think there was a lot of love and care and time put into what makes the Addams Family work. Let's create a situation that is taken from the TV show but expanded to make it, a feature, as opposed to a 22-minute short.
The Flintstones could have made like in 2024, you could have broken this down into 22-minute episodes and did a 6-episode Netflix thing, and it would have been perfectly fine, just with different fun little 20-minute scenarios in and out. You're done. That would have been perfectly fine with me.
Yeah,
instead of stretching it out, it's too much.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, it was fun to talk about with you. It was fun to watch these, but I'm also kind of getting to a point where you and I are now old people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and our parents are, plus or minus another 10 years, about ready to say goodbye. And I think the people behind us this stuff doesn't resonate with them. It's certainly like, I made a point of showing it to my kids, but do you think tomorrow they're going to remember the fucking Flintstones? Like when Seth MacFarlane makes fun of the Flintstones on Family Guy, they don't get the joke. So I'm not entirely sure any of the stuff that we grew up with, like the Flintstones or the Jetsons, like the Hanna-Barbera stuff, really has an audience in today.
Our nostalgia, to put a bow on it, our nostalgia is coming to a close. Like we've got another 5-year lifespan on our stuff, and then it's going to completely switch over to the 90s kids, and our stuff is going to evaporate.
Yeah,
like that.
I don't know if you heard me and Ronnie talk about the Ghostbusters, but like the only way to bring this stuff back, and I actually want to talk about this right before we go. because as from saying this, they're still making Flintstones cartoons, but they're making them as like cartoon movies. So like, have you seen like the WWE meets the Flintstone shit?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've seen all that stuff. It's like
Rock Cena or some shit.
They are so like the Scooby-Doo Flintstones type movies they're really good. They're exactly what they need to be. You know what I mean? There's just, you talk about a generic cheeseburger treadmill type of cartoon creation. That's it.
Right.
Not a lot of thought went into it. Not a lot of thought needs to be, Mark Radulich. It is what it is.
And that's my whole point, though. It's like, I think this stuff can live again as cartoons for kids, handled right. But I don't think any of this stuff will ever live again in theatrical exhibition. That's the point I'm trying to make.
And I think, sir, you are correct.
All right. Well, then that is our review of the Flintstones and the Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas. We have now tried twice to do a Fallout show, and twice Ronnie has failed me. But hopefully we'll get that done this week. However, we did do a review of Civil War. Chris Owen from Movies That Suck and Movies That Don't Suck and Some That Do came on. We had a great show. We had a great talk.
I want to see that. I really, really want to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. Different than what I expected it to be, but
is it the summer blockbuster Independence Day style movie?
Not even a little bit. It's more like think about like your favorite war movie. It makes you feel bad about life and it's depressing. It's kind of one of those. It's sort of the shitty side of the human condition. As I said when we did it, I don't want to redo a lot of the Long Road to Ruins. I kind of said what I needed to say back then, and I don't feel the need to say it again. However, there are some that I just don't think came out well for one reason or another, or we just never finished. And Lethal Weapon was one of them. So Sean and I redid the Lethal Weapon show. And now that's up in the archives. We had a really good. We talked about an hour and a half about all.
So the Lethal Weapon one is brand new.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening to that. That sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I did it. I did the first two movies like years and years ago with a guy from the Casual Heroes, and then we never came back and did it again. So I just like fuck it. I'll just redo these with Sean. And I'm glad I did because I definitely had a different opinion about them now than I did a few years ago. And the show is good. Sean and I had a really good conversation about Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon 4 is Lethal Rock Vegas.
Next week, we are reviewing Abigail on Damn You Hollywood. Myself and Alexis Hana are reviewing Resident Alien Season 3. Nice. And then myself, Ronnie Adams, and Pat are concluding our look at High School's in Trouble, this time the fun movies, as Pat says. We're looking at The Substitute, The Principal, and 187 on an undercover cop, Chris Bailey. So that's what we got going on here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Chris Bailey, what are you doing these days? Like, do you do any podcasting at all?
No, I've been just doing back into some blogging. I've been doing some different stuff with wrestling. Really, that's really what I'm doing. Got some work going on with a local wrestling company I'm doing with. So that's about to kick into high gear. Can't talk about it right at this moment, but coming up real soon. Outside of that, I don't need your worthless opinions, everybody.
I'm gonna get there in a second. Didn't you just do like a superhero? What do you call it? Superblog team up?
Superblog team up, yeah. So we were we got together with the band. After adding a couple new folks into the Superblog team up. So so you know what? That train keeps on a trucking through. If you're a superhero fan and want to find out more about that, join me on my Twitter at Charlton_hero. Hit Superblog team up, hashtag Superblog team up, hashtag SBTU, and join in the conversation.
So I've been telling everybody who would listen that Chris Bailey showed up in our chat not that long ago and had himself an existential fucking epiphany where he basically was like, and I feel called out. It's all right though. We're good friends. You can call me out. He was just like, fuck you. I don't need your worthless opinions. Everyone can eat a bag of dicks. And then he dropped his pants and he walked back to Newfoundland.
I used to get really bent out of shape, and I would get out of that chat and I'd be angry and I'd beat the dog. And no, I'm kidding. I didn't do that. And then one day I woke up and I'm like, I just don't care. I don't care about your worthless opinion. I would not piss in your mouth if you were dying of thirst in the desert. And there you go.
I mean, that's there's really no reason to kink shame. Listen, here's the truth of it. I'm gonna call you out now. Chris Bailey has been waiting for 100 years for the man that he's in love with, who he thinks is brilliant, me, Mark Radulich, to say what Chris is thinking. He wants to hear it come out of my mouth, and it never does. Okay?
What's that?
That's what really happens. Chris Bailey has been waiting forever for me to validate his opinions, and I won't do it. And so
you won't.
And so Chris threw himself a giant ass man tantrum and said, "That's it. I'm done. I hate you all, and I'm never listening to you again." And he walked off. And I
don't think he's understating that. I think I actually said I'm pretty vocal in the chat, and I think a lot of it just gets washed away with, oh, it's old man Bailey going on with this crap again. But some stuff I really fucking mean.
And
choke on it, you bastards! Choke!
And everyone just sort of looks at me. He was like, "Are you guys friends still?" And I'm like dying. I'm like laughing my ass off. I'm like, "This is awesome." Chris Bailey has finally fucking snapped.
Oh my god! It's the most kayfabe thing in the world. It's the most kayfabe thing in the world. Mark Radulich is my buddy.
I planted the seed when I had my fucking meltdown during the Indiana Jones review, where I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't validate your fucking opinions. Go fuck your wives. I don't know what you want from me."
You were wrong on that, though. All the same, you were being a dick over that Indiana Jones movie. I don't care what anyone says. Go watch it again, you asshole.
and we just wanted it, and out sprang this tree.
There were rockets going off in the chat. We were making fun of Robert. Robert was throwing bombs back. Mark was jumping on Robert. Ronnie was dogpiling Robert. We were going. It was great.
So I planted the seed during the Indiana Jones, and out sprung this tree where Chris Bailey months later is like, "Fuck you! I don't care about your opinions anymore. I just want to be happy." And
the song was written.
That's what I'm getting to. And that was so funny to me. I made Jesse write a song about it. And you know what, Chris Bailey? That song was so good, it needed its own authentic, original music video that only I could direct. And we're going to spend a minute on this, and then we're going to go. But what did you think of your music video, Chris Bailey, for Worthless Opinion, starring my children?
I could not have think of a better tribute. I mean, seeing Jonas Radulich living up to that, and Lily, and it was so good, so good. Hats off to the kids that listen. If anyone who supports anyone's useless opinions, I love it. So there you go. Thank you to your kids, your children, your time, a great time. Maybe you should cue it up here to send us home. I love it.
A little late for that, but all right, thanks. Chris, yes, when your wife has let you podcast again, we should come back and do Addams Family or something. We'll hit all the nostalgia.
What an idiot.
We'll do a triple feature of like the Brady Bunch and the Beverly Hillbillies and
Brady Bunch. Hey, myself and my brother, super Brady Bunch fans. If you ever want to do the Brady Bunch, I'm all in.
Oh, was there a sequel to the Brady Bunch one?
Yes, there was. There was the Brady Bunch, and then there was a very, very Brady movie.
Something like that. Okay. All right. So we need to do 2 more Long Road to Ruins before I stop bothering you at some point. When your wife allows you to podcast again, like 6 months.
So she is in Florida right now. I'll get her to find where you are. She's really good at tracking down people. So she's gonna come and kick you right in the nuts.
Married to Dog the Bounty Hunter. So yeah, I'm gonna get you back to do Addams Family, and I'll get you back to do the Brady Bunch because we have to do all the nostalgia because that's what you're here for.
Okay, buddy. Sounds good.
Nostalgia Bailey. All right. Thank you for joining us on the Long Road to Ruin. For Chris Bailey, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.